This next build is a gift for one of the technicians at my company's NVH Lab. To start, I modeled the base of the keychain as a microphone, with a hole at the end to hang the final part from. We all call the lab by its acronym, the NVH Lab, and that was added to the handle of the microphone. I was initially going to model each letter on a separate layer, but since I was referencing new letters to the existing ones, I just made them the same sketch instead. Next was placing the diaphragm. I didn't add any detail to the diaphragm yet, as this was to set the boundaries for the seat I would model. The seat is a side view. You have the distinct headrest, back cushion, and lower track structure assembly. There are also two movement symbols that I added, although one ended up on the rim of the diaphragm, so it did not end up printing. Concerning the diaphragm itself, I had a couple ideas but wanted to keep it simple, so I went with straight extrusions that would cut into the part. It would print better than a bunch of dots or concavities, which I did think about modeling, and you can see in the beginning. Afterwards, saved it to an STL, and we were ready to go. In the very beginning of this build, I had a wire routing issue, which caused the y-axis to hiccup, which you can hear right here. I recently redid my printer's wiring for a new circuit board and didn't route the heater bed wires the way they should have been. You can see this offset as the build continues, but since this was still the first layer and it was on the back of the piece, there really wasn't going to be any issue with the rest of the build because of it, so I let it go, and the print continued. Here we have the NVH keychain. Looking at the issues, there's the missing second noise symbol that we mentioned before, where built in the rim, and the left one just turned out okay. Nothing spectacular about it. Looking back, these had a 1mm width, and they were printed on a 0.4mm nozzle, so it's not too surprising, but I should have modeled them better to fit the specs of my printer. The seat itself looks good, and the letters turned out pretty nice, with the exception of the corners where my printer would change direction. Since they're straight features, I'll just take sandpaper and a file to smooth them out before giving them to the NVH Lab folk. While building, I was a big fan of how the inside 20% fill lattice looked at the diaphragm of the microphone, so if there was a next time, I'd model the diamond pattern instead of the straight lines. Otherwise, the only obvious defect besides the offset that we talked about on the first layer is the line right down the back, which you can see. That's caused from the painter tape. There's a slight gap between the two pieces of tape I have where this was built. So to mitigate this for future builds, I just redid the tape and put them a bit closer together. We'll see how it works on the next one. Overall, pretty happy with it. And it looks great in the lab.